Hello, and welcome along to the stream tonight. I hope that everyone's doing well. In terms of what I'm hoping to work on tonight, going to be a little bit different in that I've already submitted a couple of PRs over the last couple of days, evening nils. And I've had some feedback from those pull requests, and I need to go and fix them basically. So that's going to be the first port of call. Then there's a lot of discussion with various things happening on the Cake repository as we move forward towards a 2.0.0 release of Cake. We recently just released a blog post that goes into more details about what to expect for that. So up on the blog post over here, what we're basically saying is, and this note's important, so make sure you read this part too. What we're doing is, Cake's always historically had multiple different, what we refer to as runners. So whether that's the full-fat .NET Framework version of Cake, whether that's the .NET Core CLR version of Cake, whether that's the .NET Global Tool version of Cake, etc., or Frosting. That's another one. Hello, Augusto. So what we're doing as we approach the next release, the next major release of Cake, which is going to be 2.0.0, we're going to deprecate or sunset, as Pascal's put it in this blog post, two of those runners. So that means that there'll no longer be a .NET full-fat .NET Framework version of the Cake runner, and the .NET Core CLR version of the Cake runner is also going away. So going forward, it will be the .NET Global Tool version of Cake, and Cake.frosting is what we're going to be recommending to folks. Lots of reasons for doing this, and it goes on. We go into it in a little bit in the blog post, but basically it's things have changed, and where Cake started running with both the Roslyn scripting engine and the Mono scripting engine, things have evolved, and those kind of things are not needed anymore. So, hello, Freestyle Coder. Thank you for the raid. I appreciate it. So the blog post goes into more detail, but in the next release of Cake, which we are actively working on, we will be removing two of the runners. So just to bear that in mind. So what we're going to look at tonight, to start off with, is at least two of the PRs that I have open that I need to respond to some feedback. The first one is into the Chef repository. So if people aren't familiar with Chef, Chef is a configuration management system. And one of the things that Chef provides out of the box is support for Chocolatey. And what I added was a PR into the Chef repository. So this is Ruby. This is not my wheelhouse by any stretch of the imagination. I put in a PR earlier today, first thing this morning, and I do need. So I am just a happy open source contributor, Nils. My contributions into the Chef repository have nothing to do with the fact that I may or may not be able to get a free T-shirt as part of Hacktoberfest. C Films, good to have you along. I'm doing good, thanks. Yourself? Yeah, so my contributions into open source may or may not have anything to do with the free T-shirts that you can get as part of Hacktoberfest. Here's one I made earlier, but these are things that I have actually had them on my to-do list for a while. So what I wanted to do within this PR, if we go back and look at the issue that I created, so the issue is down here. So the Chef resource, or one of the Chef resources that ships within the Chef client, is the ability to add a new source into Chocolatey. But what you can't do is you can't provide additional parameters, or you can, but you can't do it easily. You can't provide the additional parameters for doing username and password. If you're using an authenticated feed for Chocolatey, you can't provide the username and password, and you can't provide the certificate or a certificate password to authenticate to that feed. So at the command line, it would look something like you would add cert or cert password, or you would add user or password. So what I did is I went and had a play this morning, and I reminded myself how to do this because I was one of the people who contributed to the chef resources a couple of years ago to get them to kind of a up to parity with what you can do in the likes of Puppet and Ansible. But we forgot something, or I forgot something, and that was the authenticated feeds. So I'm coming back came back to it today to figure that out. I heard Ruby on Rails 3 have a major problem. See, I genuinely got no idea. I'm not a Ruby person at all. I know enough Ruby to copy and paste some of the Ruby in this chef resources, and that's about it. You'll see the extent of the PR in a second when I bring it up. So I put that PR in this morning, and Tim over at Chef provided some feedback, and that feedback was that I needed to run Chef Style A. Now, I'll admit I didn't run Chef Style A because I didn't know what it was, to be honest. So I went into my PowerShell terminal, and I typed, I sort of hoped that it would work, but it clearly didn't, because Chef Style is something that comes along with Chef, obviously. So what I did instead is I went up and I run the installation for Chef Workstation. So this is a Chocolatey package that's maintained by the Chef team. And what it does is it installs a bunch of tools and makes everything work, because Chef is built on Ruby. Ruby on Windows is difficult, but the Chef Workstation sets up Ruby and makes it work without having to do too much else. So when I installed that, and then I thought, right, it's going to work, but it still didn't work. But then I remembered that Chef, as part of the Chef Workstation, ships a modified terminal that has preloaded things in environment variables and paths and everything to make it set up so that things work. And you can find that within the Chef Workstation folder. So there's this Chef Workstation PowerShell terminal. So it sets up and configures everything to make things work. So what you could then do is I could then do chef style -a. Now that would run, I found this out earlier, that would run a scan of all the files across all the repository. I've only modified one file, so I don't want to necessarily do that. But what I can do instead is I can navigate to here, so lib, chef, resource, and then the one file that I changed, which was Chocolatey source. If I run that, it will tell me that I had some violations of the linting that they do. So Chef Style is a linting tool that the Chef folks use, and what it's done is it automatically updated those things to make them right. So if we go back in here and we look at what's changed, then I was using a single quote here, which it didn't like, so it's fixed that up to be a double quote, and it's done that in a few places. And then down here, it removed an extra line, an extra line break that wasn't needed. And then again, also single quotes here and here to make things work. So literally what I've done was I added these 4 additional properties. So I've added username, prop password, cert, and cert password. Now those match the options that you can pass into the choco source command. And then what I've done is down at the bottom here is I've said if any of those have been passed in, so there's an if statement on the end here, that if the username is provided, if the password is provided, if the cert is provided, if the cert password is provided, then append that onto the command that's executed using --user equals and then what the value was passed in. And then those would flow through via the Chef resource to Chocolatey itself, and then Chocolatey would be able to create an authenticated feed. So it's a reasonably simple fix, but like I say, what Tim was looking for was a fix of those linting errors. Now the other thing I noticed is I took a guess at the version number that this was introduced in. So one of the parameters, or one of the pieces of metadata for a property is what version of the Chef client it was introduced on. So I'm going to change that. I guessed it's 17.8, but I'm going to change that to 17.7.3, which I think is the right version. And we will leave that there, because now Josh has just asked a question. that I was asked earlier when I was having a conversation with James. So Josh's question is, everyone's piling in now. Corey's piling. You folks, no, you're meant to be on holiday, Corey, aren't you? So Josh is saying, are there any mutually exclusive parameters on the Choco end that you need to worry about? And Corey is saying, I took a guess at when this was introduced. This was the standard way of pretty much. So Josh's question. I had the exact same question, and I went to Chocolatey and I ran. I might still have it. No, I closed it down. So if you run, let's go back to here. Let me go back to here and we look at the issue that I created. So if you run choco source add with user and password, that will work happily. If you run it with cert and cert password, it'll work happily. If you run it with user, password, cert, and cert password, it'll work happily. So there's nothing on the choco.exe end which is preventing the username and password combination and the cert and cert password combination working in a mutually exclusive way. So until we force that on the choco.exe end, I don't think there's anything that we need to do on the chef resource side of things. It's a great question though, because what I don't know, because if you run user, password, cert, and cert password, everything ends up in the chocolatey.config file in an encrypted way. And what I suspect that choco.exe was going to do is it will walk up to the source and it will say, are you authenticated using a username and password? Yes or no. Are you authenticated using a certificate and certificate password? Yes or no. And then I think it'll just execute them in order. So given that it's possible to set all 4 properties, I think it's really just the first in that wins. And now that's not ideal, and we should probably look at that at some point. But like I say, in terms of this PR to add support for authenticated feeds into Chef, I don't think there's anything else we need to do at the minute. So with that done, with that change done, and with me going back to fixing up the version number, which I think is, and the reason I did that is because I looked at the history of the repository, and earlier today, the Chef Expediter user, I love that, they created a latest release. Oh no, hold on. Did they actually release 17.7.3 today? Hold on. Let me check that. Did they actually release that? No, they can't have released it. Or did they? GitHub.com, Chef. Tags. Oh, no, they have. 17.7.3 has been released. So maybe 17.8 is the right one. Okay, I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna put that back into 17.8, and I'll mention to Tim on the PR about whether that's right or not. It seems like they've maybe shipped, because I did another PR this morning, which was to update the docs. So is that live now? Hold on. Chef docs, chocolatey source. No, that's not live yet. I added in a new element to their docs site for the chocolatey. So in the same way, on the chocolatey package page, there's a warning here that says the Chocolatey package manager is not installed in Chocolatey on Windows by default. You need to use the Chocolatey cookbook. So I added the same note to the source page, to the feature page, and to the config page so that there's consistency in explaining that the cookbook is needed. That doesn't look like it's shipped yet. Corey's also saying, I built my personal website and I have no idea how I did it. Now what I want to do is update it, and I think building a new one will be easier. Okay, what did you use to build your personal website, Corey? If it's not static, then it's the wrong answer. Anyway, so the changes that I've now got in here are really just the linting changes. So I'm going to just go ahead and do a rebase commit here to say that I will fix it up. And then what I'm going to do over on here is I'm going to do a git rebase -I on main is their default branch. That's all fine. Yeah. And then I'm going to pick that one up. I'm going to stick it in there. And then we'll do another rebase. I never really like doing both a rename and, or I don't like doing a squash or fix up and a movement of a commit. I think you probably can do it. I just don't like doing it. So with that done, I should now have 2 commits again off the head of the main branch, which is there, and then I should have that. I added that. There we go. So if I now do git push origin-f, don't ever do a force push at home unless you're happy with what you're doing. We go back over here, then I'll leave a note for Tim. Why is that not coming up? Okay, it's TA. His name's Tim, but it's TAS. Try that again. TAS. Thanks for taking a look at this. I have fixed up the linting errors. Can you confirm if 17.8 would be the right version number here, or should I use and Corey saying static will probably be a more gooder. Yes, I mean, there's lots of examples now that you could lean on. For example, docs.chocolatey.org is a static website. Blog.chocolatey.org is a static website. My own blog is using YAM, which is a precursor to static. So definitely things that you could lean on to move forward with that, definitely. So I'm going to comment there, and that will hopefully fix the linting errors that I've got there. Oh, that's now going to be unverified though. That's fine. It's just going to come from this machine. I don't have my GPG key set up on this machine, which I probably should. I saw a follow fly through there. Thank you very much for the follow, C Films. Appreciate it. So we'll wait and see what Tim comes back to on that one. And the other PR that I've got in the making, but I should just check what the old Hacktoberfest is saying. How has everyone's progress in Hacktoberfest 2021? I'm assuming you're taking part. How is it progressing? I think I'm at the point where I've reached the magic number, almost. So I've got 3 in progress, and if Tim accepts that other one that we've just worked on, then I would have 4 that's in the maturing state, which is the magic number. So we'll carry on with that. So that's that one. Now the other PR that I wanted to look at was, it went into Chocolatey Choco. There's still a few weeks until I have to do my panic PRs. Paul, I don't know if you saw it, but Paul is in the process of writing a blog post for the Chocolatey repositories that are being opened up to Hacktoberfest for helping out there. And there's also obviously Cake repository has Hacktoberfest enabled on it as well. So if you wanted to contribute into Cake, and a lot of folks have been, so both the Cake website and the Cake main repository are open for contributions. I think we'd welcome contributions into any of the Cake repositories as well. Augusto's saying he's pretty much all set. I sort of thought that Augusto would be okay. Corey's saying, I have one in maturing state. I can neither confirm or deny if it was a PR to my own repo. I've got no words. But this would be my... keep getting my numbers wrong in terms of how many I've done. I think this would be my 7th Hacktoberfest, I think. I do have all the t-shirts. I've kept them all. Nils is saying he's all good, so that's good stuff. Now, then the question becomes, well, are you getting a t-shirt or are you planting a tree? Because I can't not have a t-shirt now because I've got a t-shirt from all the other years. I might plant a tree as well if I can do that. I might pay to have them plant a tree on my behalf. I don't know if you can. Well, I don't know if you can do both. You would have to. There would be work to be done to do both, right? But if we can, then obviously that would be the answer. Yes. Right. The other PR that I wanted to look at was into Chocolatey Choco, and then if I can, I'm going to spend some time on Cake after that. So there's an open PR up, which is to allow configuring of the default template name. Now I got this to a point where it is working. I have a PR up that is functional, but I've left it in the draft state because there's some unit tests that I need to figure out. So I had a quick, well, I mentioned to Kim in the PR, what do I need to test? And he's made some suggestions around what tests need to be performed, and he's pointed me at least one example where the template service spec is exercised, so we should be able to build on that. So I'm going to go and open up Visual Studio, and we'll get the source code for Chocolatey Choco open. That one I've had open recently, so overtaken. So let's go up to here. Organizations, Chocolatey Choco. I'll need to pull in the latest. Let's go GitHub, organizations, Chocolatey Choco. I should say to Corey, happy Thanksgiving Day in Canada. I hope you're having a good day so far. And if we do git fetch upstream, git fetch origin, git rebase upstream master, git checkout develop, git checkout, oh, because that's a new branch, track origin develop, git rebase upstream develop, and then git branch dash a. It's hard to see, but it's this one that I want. Git checkout that one, and that one hopefully should be where we're at. Check. yeah, so it's off the headed develop branch. We've done some stuff, and now we need to add some tests for it. So reload all, and then we'll set the build off running so that all the bits get created, and then we should be able to run it in Visual Studio. And Corey's saying, I got to sleep in for a whole 2 hours today, so can't really complain. I didn't. I've not been feeling at all well the last few days, to be honest. I'm still suffering a little bit, and it doesn't help that our new puppy is intent on waking me up in the wee small hours of the morning. But in fairness, she did go outside and she did do a pee and a poo. Sure, you don't really need to know about the bowel movements of my wee dog, but I didn't get up for nothing, is the point I'm trying to make. But I need to get her into the habit of not doing that at 3 in the morning. I don't know how we do that, but hopefully, fingers crossed. I'm just going to build this with from the command line, make sure that everything's built happily. Then I can do the same in Visual Studio. There we go. So now come over here and let's do a clean and the rebuild. These errors are complaining because of the using statement, so I don't think we've got too much to worry about there. We'll deal with them another day, because we as a team need to decide on which way around these kind of rules are going to be applied, so we're not going to worry about them just now. Let's just use build only at the minute. Okay, so in terms of what we added in, if I go into Chocolatey, I go into infrastructure app, and I go into commands, and I go into the new command, which is here, then what we were adding in was a new option, which was no, I'm lying. We're not adding in a new option to the command itself. What we added in was a new configuration option. So if we go back to here and look at here, then what we'll find is what we did was in the configuration builder, and then in the Chocolatey configuration class, we added the new default template name. So where that's used is within the template service, which is this guy, and then we either set it or we don't based on whether it has a value, and that's what we need a unit test around. So if we go over here and look up here for the template service, then over here's the implementation, and then as Kim pointed out in his comment, then there is some template service specs already stubbed out, and that's what this thing is. So then what we need to do is we need to exercise the template service in such a way that we can prove out what we've set, or what we will set something up and then prove that based on that configuration being available, that it got set the way we expected it to. So he called out specifically, he didn't call out specifically anything within tests, but let's have a look and see how this is currently set out. So we've got when generate file is from template is called, when generate is called from existing directory, when generate is called, and then when generate is called with nested folders. So what it's talking about there is there's a generate method, and then within the generate method we added some logic to the end, which then checked to see what the template name was set to. So what we'd need to do is we would need to go back to here. We would likely need to set or call or copy this one, copy this test and its setup potentially, and then in the configuration or in the setup, we would modify the Chocolatey config to have to control the template name, and then we would look to see, having executed it, what it actually did at the end. So a lot of stuff happening in that test. I wouldn't necessarily want to have to call all of that. So let's take a step back and see what else is going on here. Lots of facts being asserted there, but there's also a lot less setup. So it's using when generate file from template is called. So because, oh, that's a specific method that's being called there. That's not necessarily what we'd want. This is more like it. Yeah. So let's borrow some of these. Copy. Copy. And then we'll add a new test down here, which says hard copy there. Oh, we didn't put that in a method yet. Silly. Take that. We'll say public class when generate is called with default template name in configuration, and that is going to derive from our template service specs base. Template service specs base, and then that's going to be in there. Then we can put in what we had before, and then what we can do, package is a name of Bob, that's fine. Get current directory returns Chocolatey, that's fine. Setup returns all good. So what we'll do here then is we will say config dot new command dot template name equals MSI as an example. Okay. So when we say that, no, I'm doing that completely wrong. So over here, what we did within the generate method, what we added was that it set that value or it read from the value. Let me remind myself. So we're setting it. So we're setting the template name to be that based on the configuration's default template name. So that's the part that we need to change. So oh no, we're fine. Yes. So the configuration's default template name is equal to that. And then what we should be able to say is should set new command name. So in here, we should be able to say the equivalent of then one of our cert because of that. Okay. Let's say config dot new command dot if template name dot should be should equal MSI. There. Do we need any of this stuff? Care about it. Probably need something in order for it to be able to execute. Let's leave that there, and then what we'll do is that wording's no longer what it's actually doing. In my test explorer, run my unit test. Now, why is it not finding? Not run. Why is it not run? Infrastructure app services, Chocolatey test infrastructure app services, and then it was template service specs. And generate one. Why are you not running this? Not running. Why are no tests running? Tools, extensions. I would have thought I would have already had installed, because there is a oh, maybe I don't have it installed. Okay, so let's go back up to here and menu extension online end unit. What version are we using again? So in the test, in our packages.config file, it's end unit 2. Here we should do that one. See if that will help. For those that don't know, when you install an extension in Visual Studio, typically it doesn't get added until you close Visual Studio and reopen it up again. code is saying that case sensitivity can take a long walk off a short pier. Okay. Any specific problem in that area today? Right. Close that and open Visual Studio again. It was 2019 that I opened and not 2022. Oh, I don't know. Let's find out what the last project that I opened was. File, recent projects. Yeah, no, it was this one. I just typed something out from the static website instead of copy pasta. .NET didn't know what Bootstrapper was because it should have been Bootstrapper. That might have something to do with it. Now, bear in mind that depending on what you're doing with static or what you're attempting to do with static, static doesn't currently have much in the way of themes. So the scaffolding pages that we created as part of the blog and the doc site, those are all custom creations. There's no, in the version, in YAM, you can walk up to it and say, I want a blog and I want to use this theme. That doesn't really exist in static to the same degree. There are some, but not as many. So depending on what you're doing, you might have to handcraft some of those things. I'm going to run all tests again. If that helps. Oh, that looks better. Okay, so behind my head, there is now a little spinning icon that's saying that it's running tests, but it wasn't before. If I go back over here, and we've got some failed tests. So that's maybe good and bad. Let's have a look at my failed tests. And I wasn't necessarily expecting any failed tests here. Should have a help message with contents when help is requested. I wasn't necessarily expecting anything to break there. That's a weird one. Come back to that one. Should run validate configuration when help is requested. Again, wasn't necessarily expecting that to fail. These are all Corey's problems. He was the last one to touch the help command. Don't know why they're failing. But in here, if this one is the temp, this one I am worried about because actual was null. Well, that's interesting. Okay, well let's set a wee breakpoint here and let's debug this thing. Oh, it's still running. Oh, it's running my integration test. I don't necessarily care about the stop those. And I'm going to debug this one. So fun and games with unit tests at the minute. Pretty sure it's someone else that merged that help. I don't know who that person would have been. I should maybe do a git blame, should we? Do a step into at this point. Oh, it was a lazy one, so that's not going to work. I go into here and come into. I miss it. Yeah, I did. So one more time into the breach. Back in here, back in the bug. This one can come off then. And because service don't generate, why is that not? That's only because there, but that was there. Where? Okay, so let's attempt that and say cause, and let okay, better. So what happens if I just let that run? Now going in a code path that we don't necessarily want it to as part of this test. So that's happening because the package location is Chocolatey Bob, and it's saying it exists, but that's because of the test that we set up. So I'm going to say directory exists. I'm going to say that we don't want that then, because we don't want it to verify that step. So let's try that again. Debug. Get to this time. Okay, so we should be able to step over, step over, step over, step over. Then we say over, got down there, do those things, step down through some of this, see if we can get down to the part that we're interested in, which is here. Get here, we do. Okay. So in terms of what we're wanting to test within this test, we know we're now in the exact area that we want to. I want to be. So our default template name at the minute is MSI because that's what we passed into the configuration. So this is us testing the fact that the chocolatey.config file contains MSI. And the end result of that should be that we step over this oh, now here we need to do some stuff. That's not going to exist. And what it's going to do instead is it's not going to do what we want it to do. This is still a valid test though, because there is a code path that we want to validate there. But it's going to generate from template at that point. So our test is going to be invalid because it's going to be null. But that's actually what's expected because that part of the code so this is actually this is when generate is called with default template name and configuration, but template folder doesn't exist. Rid of you, and we'll now say that our assertion is should use default should use null template name. Null should use null value for template. So new template name should equal, oh, must be a should be null, right? Should be null. Yes. Okay. So then we do that one again. We run it. Okay. That passes. So then what we need to do is we need to have another one that's testing essentially the same thing, but should use template name from Workstation. And then all of this is complaining because all of this is complaining. In configuration and template folder exists. So the comment that we commented out here can be that. And then in here, we want to do something similar to this, but we might need it to be a little bit more specific. Borrowed that from somewhere. From search for it down, verified template path was just a string. Back again. And what we're trying to exercise is within the generate, there are two usages, or there's at least two usages of directory exists and combined paths. So what we want to be able to do is to get it to step over this one so that it doesn't cause a problem there. So the question becomes how to get it to skip that one, but not skip this one. And then now we can, at the minute, when it asks for, it's asking for any string at this point. So we might want it to be we may want this to be a little bit smarter and say false here when it's no, let's do it this way around. If anyone's got any brighter ideas, then I am open to them. But what I want to say is when you're asking for this, the default template name is what we've just passed in. The default template name is that. So when the directory exists, when it is file system dot, I won't be able to do it there, will we? That's a mock. So we should be able to do path.combine application parameters Not sure if I could. Don't really like bringing this in. Parameters dot templates location. And then what we've said is MSI. I thought combined string. Path dot combine. Oh, simple as that. Okay. I've done that around the wrong way, haven't I? I was going to put this in the first one. Let's take that out again. And I'm going to put this in here. And then this will let me one. And here. Okay. 1, 2. Okay. What does that do? Run. Okay. That worked, but wasn't necessarily expecting it to. So let's see what it does. So what I wanted it to say was, well, actually, let's put this back up to here and run that again. Debug. What we're saying is step over. This one should return false, which it now does. Fine. That one, necessarily care about those things yet. Or that. So let's just run down to the next one. So at this point, we said, does the template exist? Yes. So it, well, that's not what we wanted to do. We wanted this to be returning that. That should have been returning. Our assertion is still wrong. That's why it's still working. So this should be MSI. But that's obviously not doing what we wanted it to. I'm going to rule this one out. Let's take comment. Try it. Debug. Oh, should equal, sorry. And now I commented out the catch-all for directory exists, so this might cause us a problem at this point. That's fine. So it returned false. So that's good. Now we come down to here. Now it returned true. That's good. Now we come into here. Now the template name is that. So now our test passes. Correct? did. Okay, that's good. That's good, he says. Then, so in terms of code paths, we have tested it when the config is set, but the folder doesn't exist, it uses the default. When the config is set and it does exist, it sets a template name to be that. And now what we need to test is when they are both set. So if you set both the, let's do, copy this again, copy this, paste this. When generate is called with default template name in configuration and template name option set, so what I'm basically going to say here is if both are set already, so if new command dot template name equals zip and the template name is set, what happens? So in that scenario, default template name is null or white space template name. So that one should not be true anymore. So it should never get into here. And at which point it shouldn't try and set it to the value that's in the config value, which is this one. So we would expect this one to be zip, zup, zip. Should use template name from command line option. Okay. So that's this one, right? So if we run this, it says it failed. It failed, unable to find path to the requested template zip. That's not unexpected because that does sort of answer the question though, but we'll need to test this to see if it's going down the code path that we expect it to. See. Okay, and then let's see if debug this. Where do we get to? So we step over this. We're not doing that. Run this again. The default template name is MSI. That's the one that's coming from the chocolatey.config file. So that's set. Our template name is set to zip, which we want it to be. So we should never get into there. Correct. And then we get into here and we attempt to do some stuff. And one of those is the directory.exists. Otherwise, it throws an exception. Hence why we needed to set that other bit of setup, because the template path expects it to exist and we want it to be there. Happy days. Okay, so if we go back to the comment that Kim left, he said, from looking at the change code, there are 2 unit tests that at least should be added. Test that the configured default template value is being used. Done that. That the passed in template name is respected. Done that. Probably not needed to do a full run for each of those tests, but would need to assert that the file service is called with the correct values. I believe that we're doing that. is at the end of the day, we don't necessarily care that the we don't necessarily care that it did some of the other things. So for example, if we go back up here and look at the should generate all files and directories, I don't necessarily care that that's being done in these tests. These tests are just explicitly about setting up the configuration and seeing if the default values are respected or not. So let's go back to my template service then, and let's run all the tests at this level. Make sure that they're not broken. Said it was doing stuff, but I didn't see it do it. Let's run the 95 tests that are finished. 95 tests, 0 failed. Perfect. I'm not entirely sure why these tests are failing, but I'm also going to leave them and I'll see if they run on GitHub Actions when we submit this or we update our PR to include those unit tests. So if we go back over here, this is 2377. Added a test which is when generate is called with default template name and configuration, but template folder doesn't exist, it should use null value for template. Should be null. When generate is called with default template name in configuration and template folder, is that not what we said it was before? We've named that really poorly. Let's go back. That was 2, 3, 4. So we've said default template name in configuration, but template folder doesn't exist. Default template name in configuration and template folder exists. Default template name in configuration and template name option set. Then it says should use template name from command line option because that's the closest one to the user. So you set it in the chocolatey.config file, but then you override it essentially at the command line wins. Okay, so we're back to here. Let's refresh this. So we said and template folder exists, then setting it to MSI should result in the template name being MSI, and when generate is called with default template name in configuration and template name option is set, then we're setting it to both zip and MSI, and what wins is the template name, so it's zip. Beautiful. So I'm going to add those in, and I'm going to say that 2377 add unit tests. Unit tests have been added to exercise the generate method of the template service to ensure that the template that is used matches the figured value. If option is set at the command line, it when even if default value usually. Chocolatey.config file. Okay. If default value is set in chocolatey.config file, but path doesn't exist, should null value. If default value is set in chocolatey.config file and path this should be set this template. Those are the three cases that we're testing for. Let's go ahead and commit that. I'm going to say git push origin, and then I can update this to say ready for review. And we haven't already. I now select the cake. See, he hasn't, because he's an external contributor, I can't add him. I think I might add him in, external contributor. Does anyone know what the default permission set for an external contributor project is? We're going to have a look at that. I'm doing this off screen just in case there's anything that I leak. I don't really want to do. So if I say settings on this repository and I say access, what we should be able to do is add people saying I'm going to invite him with read permissions recommended for non-code contributors who want to view or discuss your project, recommended for contributors who need to manage issues and pull requests without write access. I'm going to give him read now. If I give him this, then hopefully once that's accepted, I might be able to. I have to wait for them to flow through. In them both just say, oh, good. I have this from draft. Would both able to look, let comment. That doesn't look good though. All the, is that the same unit test that's failing then? Hold on. Good at all. Why is the build failing on? It's failing on everything but the Windows operating system, which doesn't bode well. Test run 163, 2 errors. Test error. Generate is called with default configuration. it's expected that it's MSI, but the actual is null. Now, why does that cause an error on Ubuntu? Is it the same problem on Mac OS? I bet it is. Scroll up a little bit here. Just after here, 2 errors. Expected MSI, but it was null. So expected MSI here. The one that's failing is this one. And it's failing in here. Yeah, that's good, is it? Now I see why. Yeah, all of these tests that involve paths aren't really going to work. So I think that's going to be all of them, isn't it? I think I'm going to have to do that. I think I'm going to do that. And I think I'm going to have that until we fix all those. You're not wrong, Corey. I mean, it is a tool for Windows, yes. It would be better if things like this didn't, or we would use system path separators so that it didn't fall over, would be better. But for now, I'm going to match what's in here, which is basically not running them on mono. So I'm going to go back over here and say, let's rebase that. Back over here, we're going to git rebase -I on develop. And then we will pick this one up. Oh no, it's where it was actually. And we'll do that. That. Paste that. Git -f origin. And then let's watch that again. Actions. See what it does this time around. I'm waiting. I've been having fun with Cloudflare recently. And by fun, I mean not really a lot at all. I've been trying to transfer some of my .co.uk domains into Cloudflare, and it hasn't really gone the way I would have wanted it to. I'm really quite confused. That's a James definition of fun, indeed. So I've got domains in 2 different registrars currently. I'll not name them, but let's just pick a day. Let's just pick a Monday. I decided that I was going to move 4 domains, 2 from each registrar, into Cloudflare, right? One of the ones from the first registrar went through no problems. The second one from that same registrar hasn't come through yet. Don't know why, right? Second registrar, I got an email back from them that the original source registrar says, oh, we can't transfer your domains to Cloudflare because they don't support .co.uk. And I was like, no, they do, because I've just transferred another .co.uk domain from another registrar and it went through fine. So I know that they do support it. Plus, here's all the same TLD nils, so that all .co.uk. So I went back to the first registrar and said, no, they do support it. Here's their updated support information. I've already transferred a .co.uk into and it worked fine. So then they said, oh, we need to raise a support ticket with Cloudflare. Okay, went into the Cloudflare system, went through the support system, and it had me select a domain from my list of domains that I currently have site set up for Cloudflare. I'm like, okay, fine. Picked the one of the ones that's got .co.uk in it. And within like a minute, I get an automated response back from their system saying, oh no, we don't support .co.uk. And they link me off to the page where it says that they do support .co.uk. So that confused me, because their automated system said we don't support it, but their automated system also sent me to a support page that says, well, you do support it. So a little bit of backwards and forwards, and eventually one of those domains from that registrar flows through into Cloudflare and it's been updated. So I'm now in a state where I have one .co.uk domain from my 2 registrars living in Cloudflare, but the other 2 haven't come through yet, and I don't understand why. And then I was in a situation where I've got a .uk domain that I wanted to ship into Cloudflare, because I want to put them all under one roof, basically. And because you get wholesale prices, blah, 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 makes sense. So I said, I went into Cloudflare and I tried to set up a site that was the .uk domain, and Cloudflare says, oh, you can't set it up, that domain hasn't been registered. I'm like, no, it is, because I'm looking at it on I went to the Whois website, I've typed in the domain, and it says currently registered with this registrar. And now they come back and say to me, well, in order for it to be in order to create a site, it has to return name servers. But I'm like, it's got name servers configured in the registrar, so I don't understand why Cloudflare isn't seeing them. So I'm a little bit confused. But I'm giving Cloudflare the benefit of the doubt, and I know that they've just opened up that .co.uk domain, .co.uk top level domains. They're maybe having an influx of people doing it. I don't know. So I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt at this point. But it's been a little bit annoying, because I've got 2 active and 2 not active, but they've all come from the same 2 source registrars. And yeah, Corey, we don't support this. Over here, you can see that we do support it. That was exactly the situation. That was exactly it. And I was like, nah, that's just not good. Josh, one thing I found out is that they're doing more than a traditional transfer, as in additional checks. I think they're trying to be too clever for their own good. I think that sums it up. But when you get a support ticket from them that says, I don't really want to read it all out, but effectively, their automated system was like, you can't transfer that domain .co.uk. We don't support it, and then literally it's a It looks like the TLD using this domain isn't supported by Cloudflare registrar yet. A list of supported TLDs can be found on insert link to this page, and you go to that page and it immediately says recently added TLDs.co.uk. And I was like, nah, at that point I was just like, nah, something's broken. You need to fix it. But seemingly they've got a 5-day window before my current registrar will, I guess, close it. It says, looks like Cloudflare hasn't accepted the tag update on this one as of yet. They have 5 days to accept this, but I don't know what happens at that point. I don't know if that means my current registrar will be like, nah, you're not getting it, and I'll have to request it again, or what happens. I don't know. It's a little bit annoying though. So yeah, we'll wait and see. Wait and see. But anyway, that build passed. So in theory, that PR should be good to go. And hopefully Kim and or Cake is Alive will be able to take a look at that. Okay, so that's the two things that I wanted to get done tonight. So what am I working on next? Corey's saying, I imagine after 5 days they take it back and you have to re-request it. And I think that's it as well. But the unfortunate thing there though is that one of the registrars, there's no way to do it through their website. I have to contact the support team. Whereas the other registrar, it's a button that says release it. So don't know. And yeah, so it doesn't just sit there in a state of flux. Yeah, I would imagine that would be the case as well. But I'm hoping it doesn't get to that point, and I'm hoping I keep on coming in the morning and refreshing the page that lists all the domains I currently have in Cloudflare, and I'm sort of hoping that I'll just come in and it'll be like, oh, you've got another one. But I'm also not holding my breath, if I'm honest. So, but it would be nice to have them all under one roof. That roof being Cloudflare. So we'll see how that goes. A couple of days. I've not been super stoked by what I've seen so far. But anyway, right. So without those two things done, I might actually call it a night. Unfortunately, my nose is getting a little bit blocked, and I'm finding it hard to concentrate. So I might bring it to a close and come back when I'm feeling better. Corey is saying I only have two domains and they're both with the same registrar, so imagine Cloudflare wouldn't offer me. So the only thing that's nice though, Corey, there, and it's one of the reasons that I'm moving them, is that Cloudflare has committed to offering the renewal of those domains at wholesale prices. So rather than your current registrar taking some amount of markup for registering those domains for another year or another 2 years, Cloudflare has committed to giving them at wholesale prices. So they're not making any money over the registration of those domains, but they offer a very similar service in the sense that you can register, control all the domain entries, etc. Now for me, I was already doing that, so I'd already for each of those domains, or each of the domains that I had a website attached to it, I had already changed over the name server, so I was using Cloudflare for all the DNS entries, and the registrar was really only there for the registration and the renewal of the domains. I wasn't using any other features within the registrar's website because I'd already ported over to the name servers. So it made, in my scenario, it made sense to bring those domains over to be registered with Cloudflare as well, because then it's all under one roof. Have they committed on the renewals for a certain time period at wholesale or permanently? I believe it's permanently. Cloudflare domain renewal wholesale price. Is that the term that I was using? Wholesale, yeah. New domain registrar, accept all cookies. You pay what we pay. You won't find a better value. So at cost pricing for registration and renewal, blah blah blah. Cloudflare registrar will only ever charge you what we pay to the registry for your domain. No markup and no fees. Security features like two-factor authentication, multi-user support, yada yada yada. Hundreds of top-level domains supported. No inflated costs. So no, it doesn't say it's a time-limited offer. I would go for it. It works. So we use Cloudflare both at work or I use Cloudflare both at work, obviously, and for my personal stuff. So yes, I can testify to the fact that their multi-factor authentication works. I can also testify to the fact that I don't think one of my registrars has multi-factor authentication at all. So the where's the top level domains? The full list. This is the list. I can put this in the chat. If I copy that, I'll put this over here. That is the. Oh, really? No, I can't paste that because I'm not signed in. Okay, I'm not signed into my own Twitch chat, so I can't actually paste that into the chat. But hopefully, let's do this way. I'll put this into Slack, and then Corey can paste it into the chat room so that everyone's got it. Corey's there. He's not on Slack. Oh, he's not on. He won't be on Slack because he's not at work. Who can I send this to? Nils, are you still there? I'll send it to Nils on Slack. I'll send it to Nils, and he can put it into chat. There we go. These are all the TLDs that are supported. So you'll see over here that .co.uk is one of the recently added ones, and this is what made me start looking at this. There's a whole section of ones that are available soon. One that I am interested in, if I maybe zoom in a little bit here, one that I am interested in the new is the .me domain. I've got a couple of .me domains. So as of the 19th of October, I'll be able to hopefully bring in a couple of .me domains that I have. So the only one that isn't on the list for domains that I currently have are .dev domains. So I've got at least I've got two .dev domains, and I can't do anything with them at the minute because, I can't do anything with them. I can't bring them all into one place because at the minute Cloudflare doesn't offer .dev domains. Now, my understanding, based on what Josh said, is that they haven't ruled it out, but they also haven't given a timeline for when those .dev domains might be coming in. So yeah, so Josh is saying there that he's waiting on both app and .app and .dev to come over. So it's not a complete list. They don't have everything, but for me now, they've got the lion's share of them, which are .co.uk and .me and .uk. And if I can get all those moved under one banner, I'll be happy to then have .dev as it comes along. Okay then, that answers the question for Corey. So .ca isn't there either. That's unfortunate. Oh, they're so close. There's a few that's very close. Oh, that's unfortunate. You'll need to stick with your current registrar, right? Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, I think I'm gonna call it a night for tonight. I think. Yes. I found the same thing just going through it just now. Yeah, so like I said, in terms of a recap for tonight, I got done what I wanted done, which was the review and update of the 2 PRs that I have open. I'll actually just do a quick sanity check to see if there's been any more feedback from Tim on the chef one that I added. So chef, ours. Oh, here we go. 17 points. How can it be 17.7? Okay, let's get that update. They've shipped 17.7.3. So confused by that one. I'm not going to argue with them though, but I am going to. Where can I check that? That would be on the chef infra client package. This 5. Is that because there's one? I'm not going to argue with them. Let's just quickly go in here, get that updated. 17.7, 17.7, 17.7, and he wanted cert password to be updated to be cert underscore password. That there. That one I can't change because that's what's passed into Chocolatey itself. This one is going to be that. All that's left is that. So let's do one more rebase. Open, don't. Back in C. GitHub. Chef. Git Rebase -I. This one's getting up there. Or a fix up on that. That one. And Git -F origin. Back over. I will get it. Comment. You. Perfect. A thumbs up here. There we go. Okay, cool. Okay, so in terms of recap, I had 2 open PRs, one at the Chef, one at the Chocolatey Choco. I had feedback from both of those PRs from the interested parties, and I got those updated. So with all of the comments, so hopefully they will flow through and get merged in. And at that point, I'm going to say, I'm done. But thank you all for hanging out. Next week will likely be some cake related shenanigans. I'll probably be talking to Alexa Nils and Augusto through the week about what needs to be done for the upcoming 2.0.0 release of Cake, and there'll be some work in and around there to make sure that everything is going out the door the way we want it to. So that will likely be next week. So if you're interested in helping out with that, feel free to jump on. But for now, I'm going to say good night. Thank you very much, and I will talk to you all on the internet. Bye-bye.